I'm 27 years old. I have no money, no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents, and I'm frightened. Today we are talking about Charlotte Lucas. Now I am obviously a big Pride and Prejudice fan, a big Jane Austen fan, and I'm very fascinated by Charlotte, not just as a character in and of herself, but how she has been depicted in the book, how she functions in the book, how she is presented in different adaptations, and how the Jane Austen fandom at large sees her. Specifically, the thing that got me thinking about this is that last year, without thinking about it or planning it, I ended up reading 3 books that were all sort of sequels to Pride and Prejudice that were about Charlotte Lucas or Charlotte Collins as she becomes. They were all wildly different, but all had some things in common, and I thought it was really interesting, having read the 3 different books, to think about how we perceive Charlotte Lucas and whether that's necessarily accurate to how she's depicted in the book. All of these books also felt very indicative of the fact that Charlotte Lucas is really having a moment right now on the grand scale of a 200-year-old fandom. This is her time. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well and how that is sort of all linked in with these 3 books. And have we misunderstood her? So as I said, this is her moment, this is her time. We are all loving Charlotte Lucas at the moment. And I think in the years since the 2005 film came out, people have been living with their parents for longer, moving back in with their parents after moving out. That being 27 and feeling like a financial burden on your parents is a much more common occurrence now than it has been for a very, very long time. Even my wife, who is not a massive Jane Austen fan, I drag her around as much as I can. She knows Charlotte Lucas from that scene, which I did make her watch the film once. She knows Charlotte Lucas from that scene. She's familiar with her character and with her memeability and her role in pop culture, basically. I first read Pride and Prejudice in, I think, 2009, and certainly at that age and at that point in time, then Charlotte's decisions didn't feel like something I understood. I didn't feel like I understood why she was making this choice, and obviously now I understand, all the financial reasons why she made that choice, her role in the narrative as a sort of foil for Lizzie, who does get to make those choices. But I and my peers did not understand why. And actually it was the Lizzie Bennet diaries that got us to understand, this was a financial decision for her own security as to why she married Mr. Collins. So in many ways she is better understood now than she has been in a very, very long time. And yet, in these books, some of them, again, very varied, sometimes I didn't feel convinced that it's something that she would do. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So these 3 books that I've been talking about, the first one is Charlotte by Helen Moffat. The second one is The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennet by Linz McLeod. And the third one is Introducing Mrs. Collins by Rachel Parris. If you read any of these books, then great. I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know what you thought. I'm also going to be spoiling all 3 of them. So just so you know, just to get ahead of the curve, I'm going to be spoiling all 3 of them. If you want to read any of them, maybe come back to this video later. All 3 are set after the end of Pride and Prejudice. And the first one I read was Charlotte by Helen Moffat. And this one follows the loss of one of Charlotte's children. She goes to stay with Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, who are struggling to have their own child. And while she is there, she meets a musician who has travelled over from Germany to, service the family instruments, to tune and repair all the various instruments in Pemberley. And they fall in love and they have an affair. And at the end, she has a child, and it's left ambiguous as to whether the child is, or as to who the child's father is. I'm going to skip over the Mary Bennet book for a moment and talk about Introducing Mrs. Collins by Rachel Parris, which in many ways was very similar to Charlotte. This time the book overlaps with Pride and Prejudice, and we got to see some of Charlotte's perspective during Pride and Prejudice. And again, this time she falls in love with Colonel Fitzwilliam. They have an affair, they break things off, Mr. Collins conveniently dies, and she gets to end up with Colonel Fitzwilliam. I enjoyed the first one much more than the second, and I think it's because it convinced me that being unfaithful is something Charlotte Lucas would do, which Rachel Parris didn't manage to do, but Helen Moffat did. She convinced me that this was in character for Charlotte, and that in her position in life at the moment, this is something she might decide to do. Of course, the big difference in the Helen Moffat book is that Charlotte is grieving, and that is something that can change someone's motivation, someone's perspectives, hugely. What I really appreciated in the Helen Moffat book is there felt like an acknowledgement that she was happy with Mr. Collins, that they had built a happy life together, that they had a happy home, and that tragedy had happened and that has shifted her perspective. In introducing Mrs. Collins, I never really got the sense that she was happy or fulfilled, which is something that feels really clear in Pride and Prejudice. It's a crucial moment in Pride and Prejudice when Lizzie goes to visit Charlotte and Mr. Collins and realises that Charlotte is happy, that she's made a different decision than Lizzie would, but she has blossomed in it. She's not just made it work and made it kind of, livable. She is really coming to her own. This is a role that she feels fulfilled in. And that's what I really felt like was missing from the Rachel Parris book, is that sense that Charlotte is at home with Mr. Collins, that being Mrs. Collins is a role that she is suited to. Now let's talk about the unlikely pursuit of Mary Bennet. So this is different in a number of ways from the other two. The first and most obvious one being that it's queer. The other big difference is that this book starts with Mr. Collins passing away. So Mrs. Collins is a widow. She has freedom. She has a certain amount of autonomy, not a huge amount, but some more than she did when she was Miss Lucas. And it opens up this whole new world of the character for her. She reunites with Mary. They both realise they've changed. They've grown. They fall in love. It's lovely. It's really nice. It's just fun. It's so much fun. It's great. And honestly, getting rid of Mr. Collins early on in the book was an excellent decision, because Charlotte still had some fulfillment from that life and she was happy. This book is just about her really coming into her own after everything that has already happened. I'm sure there are many, many more books about Charlotte Lucas, that I am missing out on. But I thought those three as a selection were just a really interesting kind of slice of how we view Charlotte. That with our modern propensity for romance and love and having a happy ever after, none of us are satisfied with the ending she got in Pride and Prejudice. And that fascinates me, because she has a happy ending at the end of Pride and Prejudice. I would say there's more romance in her relationship with Mr. Collins than there is in some of Jane Austen's other lead couples. Fanny Price and Edmund Bertram, for instance, I see them as being similar levels of love. And it's a lovely happy ending for her. She has her home that she takes such good care of, that she loves, that she takes pride in. She has her husband and they work really well together. They're expecting a baby. It's a beautiful, beautiful ending for both of them. And none of us are happy with it. And I think the reason is this, and it's just sort of settling in now as I've spoken everything out loud, is that we all think of ourselves as Lizzie Bennet. We all want to be the Lizzie Bennet of our own lives. She is the ultimate heroine. She is who we all want to be and aspire to be. And Lizzie doesn't like Charlotte's ending, so why should we? But Lizzie is proven wrong, and we should be proven wrong as well. I'm not saying there isn't scope for her to have another life after Mr. Collins, or to grieve, or to have joy, or to fall in love, or to have hatred, to have all these other things after the events of Pride and Prejudice. Of course there is scope for that. But let's not pretend she doesn't have a happy ending. She completely does. Honestly, the older I get, the more I realise I'm not a Lizzie Bennet. I'm a Mr. Darcy. I am grumpy and I judge people and I don't want to go outside and meet new people. I want to stick with my routine and my friends that I know, and that's what I want. So what do you think? Have we all collectively misjudged Charlotte Lucas? Or am I just reading way too much into this? I mean, I definitely am. Just to be clear, I definitely am. But that's why it's fun to talk about on the internet. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you think Charlotte Lucas did have a happy ending in Pride and Prejudice? If you could write her sequel, what would happen to her? Maybe the reason that we are so interested in her story is we do relate to her as the best friend that struggles in love, and we want to see that happy ending in ourselves. What are your theories? Let me know, and I will see you next time. Happy reading! She always has to be the centre of attention. You wouldn't let me talk without barking, would you?